Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Zach on Sports. I am your host, Zach Gershman. With me today is CBS Sports' own Spero Dedes. Welcome, Spero.
Hey, Zach. Great to be with you.
Thank you for coming onto the show. Now, Spero, coming out of college, not many journalists have the opportunity to enter big markets. You were good enough to land a job coming out of school in New York City, of all places. Share with us what it was like getting your first big break.
Well, first of all, let me clarify. I was lucky enough to be able to stay not only in New York City, but my home market. I grew up in northern New Jersey, probably about a 35-minute drive outside New York City on a good day. And, you know, as any broadcast student, you just dream of getting that first job, anything to be able to do this for a living. And after deciding to go to Fordham University, which, as you know, and so many people in the industry know is one of the best broadcast schools in the country, I was just able to make so many connections that were able to kind of set me on my path. And to get my first job, actually, while I was still in my senior year at Fordham, working for the now defunct XFL in its first go around, was one of those just dreamlike moments. To be able to get that first job again before graduation was something I'll never forget. And it just kind of started this crazy journey that I've been on for the last 20 plus years. Hard to believe it's been that long already.
One of the outstanding opportunities, one of the most amazing opportunities you had coming out of school, a couple years out of school, was at 26, you became the new radio voice of the Los Angeles Lakers. Just a few years before that, the voice of the Lakers was the legendary Chick Hearn. Starting as the broadcaster for the Los Angeles Lakers, only a couple years out of college, had it to have been enough pressure. But was there any added pressure that you felt knowing you could have been compared to the legendary Chick?
Well, luckily for me, there was a couple of buffers in between, you know, after Chick's unfortunate passing and when I was hired in 2005. A great broadcaster by the name of Paul Sunderland took over in the immediate aftermath after Chick's passing. And then Joel Myers, who eventually was moved from radio to TV, opening the door for me to be hired as the radio announcer in 2005. And so I think those two guys bore the brunt of, you know, who is going to fill in for Chick, our legend, who anyone on the West Coast and anyone who's a student of the NBA knows what an impact he had and what a giant he was in the industry. That said, for someone like me who was hired and coming into that LA market, which demands so much in terms of broadcast excellence because of the traditions that have been set there, it was very, very daunting, very intimidating. And I was reminded early on how high that bar was set. And so when I was hired, I just lived and breathed the job. I mean, I didn't leave my apartment much other than to go to the airport for our road games and to go to Staples Center for work. I really just tried to throw myself into the job. And it really, to be honest with you, it took me a couple of years to really get comfortable to the point where I trusted what I was doing and where I believed I could, you know, while certainly not being Chick, I can be my own person and maybe have a small level of success. But best 6 years of my life, just an unbelievable experience. Just as the Lakers were starting to climb the ranks back up to their usual perch in the Western Conference, it was a dream come true.
I believe I watched an interview you had where you said somebody would be standing right outside the broadcast booth after the Lakers games just to remind you who Chick Hearn really was. Tell us a little
you
bit
know
about
what? While it sucked at the time, and I didn't like that person very much, it really, you know, it really was such a challenge to me, and it was just like a constant reminder. You know, you may think you're doing okay, but you still have so much more to go. And I think it's always a reminder, not that we need it in this business. It's a cutthroat industry that we're all in and trying to make it. But it really just reinforced where I was and the determination that I had to just really try to be the best that I can be and to work hard and to really never take your foot off the gas pedal.
Speaking of the best you could be, you learned under one of the best, Marty Glickman at Fordham. What was it? Your dream job, I was told, was to be a New York Knicks broadcaster. Later on, after the Lakers position, you fulfilled your dream by becoming the broadcaster for the New York Knicks. But what was it like learning from Marty Glickman, who was the former voice of the New York Knicks?
It was unbelievable. You know, it was like having the number one guy all time in your industry being your own private tutor. There's really nothing I can say to justify the impact that Marty had, not only on me, but the rest of my fellow broadcast students when we were at Fordham. Luckily for us, Bob Aarons, who ran our program at FUV for years and years and had such a huge impact on all of us, had a relationship with Marty. And in the final years of Marty's life, talked to him and had him to agree to come in to give us a workshop once a week on Wednesday. So it would basically be Marty in the middle of the room, all of us kind of camped around him in a classroom setting. And one by one, Marty would have you bring your tape up, cassette tapes at the time, pop them into the machine, and he would listen to it and critique each one of us individually in front of the whole group. And the greatest thing about Marty, and I've told this story before, is that, he would pull no punches. I mean, he would really, kind of call you out, chastise you when he felt like you weren't good or when you weren't up to par with what he deemed to be the standard in this business. And it was such a moment for us, such an eye-opening moment for us of what it takes to succeed in this business. And, so oftentimes now, we get too many pats on the back and people telling us how good you are, but especially when you're a young student trying to, develop your style and figure out who you want to be in this business, that is what you really need. And Marty was, he was so impactful. He would chop you down a little bit, but then when he knew you needed a pat on the back, he was there as well. And I'll never forget a phone call I got from Marty from his apartment in New York, calling me at home. It was a break from school. And first of all, I was stunned that he was calling me. And secondly, he told me, he asked me, he said, are you really serious about doing this for a living? Because I really think you have what it takes. And I'll never forget that moment. It was really the first kind of shot of confidence that I got, and really, I think, set me on my path early on. But I'm forever indebted to Marty. I'll cherish the couple of years that we had a chance to get to know each other, and I had to learn from him.
That's a special connection that you guys had.
Yeah.
That's awesome to hear about. In light of the current pandemic that's going on, and with the sports leagues constantly adapting, trying to figure out what they want to do for this season, you do play-by-play announcing for NFL and CBS. How do you think your role is going to change when the leagues do come back?
Such a great question. I'm talking with my colleagues every couple of days, every week. We're all asking each other the same question. What is this thing going to look like when we come back? The NBA, I think, is certainly, on the verge of announcing what it's going to look like. I think first and foremost, just in terms of a practical sense, we are expecting that as announcers, we will not be on site, meaning we won't be in the arenas, we won't be in the stadiums. We're anticipating, I think, that we'll probably be in a studio calling the games off the monitor. Obviously public health and keeping everyone safe is paramount and the number one concern for our networks and for these sports leagues in general. So you would just think having the few amount of people on site would just make it a safer environment for everyone involved. That said, we could be on site. Who knows? I mean, at this point, it's just a guessing game. But the one thing I do know, and we've talked about this with a bunch of my colleagues and friends in the business, that first game or those first games back, it's just going to be such an emotional rush and an appreciation for what we have had and what we've lost here for the last 3 months. This is unprecedented in terms of what we are experiencing and living as a country and as an entire world. And, none of us can wait to get back to work and to just realize, how lucky we are to be doing this for a living.
As you mentioned, sports could be coming back very soon. It's very exciting to think I'm finally going to be able to turn on ESPN, CBS, and I'm going to be able to see a live game and not necessarily a repeat from a couple years back. But go ahead.
No, we all love the classic games. I've watched a bunch of them, but man, we need some live content for sure.
Of course. I can only do so much cornhole games. But with all the success you've had, athletes are very known for their preparation before games, for their warm-up before games. I heard you have a very unique warm-up vocal lesson that you do before your games. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, working at NFL Network for years and years, I was very fortunate to work with a voice coach who's one of the prominent guys in his field by the name of Arthur Joseph. And Arthur teaches something called vocal awareness, which basically reteaches you how to speak and do it professionally. Arthur has worked with some of the most renowned singers in the world, politicians. My God, Arnold Schwarzenegger was one of his clients when he was the governor of California. But opera singers and people at really just the forefront of the industry. And Arthur basically breaks you down, how to sit in posture and how to do your vocal warm-ups. Yes, posture is very good.
Yeah, I gotta fix that
pull
right
the
now.
string, as Arthur would say. But he was so instrumental for me in just kind of breaking things down, how to breathe, speaking with punctuation, seeing punctuation. I used to speak very, very fast when I was an early broadcaster in the business. And so still to this day, one thing I do before every game, I'll sit and I'll do a little vocal warm up for about 5-10 minutes to get the windpipes and the wind going through, to get your voice up to snub on a Sunday morning or, a weeknight getting ready for an NBA game. But it's something that I think I'll do for the rest of my career. Very, very important.
We now know Spero Dedes, the broadcaster. Spero, you up to get to know you, the person. The viewers want to get to know. We have a segment here called Beyond the Mic. Ready for it?
Yeah, I'm a little scared, but yes, let's do it. Let's do it.
Another highlight for you early on in your career, you were able to broadcast, be a play-by-play announcer at the 2004 Summer Olympics in Athens, Greece. You're Greek. How special was it for you and your family given your Greek heritage?
Oh, it was incredible. It was everything. I can, whatever I do for the rest of my career for the next, however many years it'll be, that will be like on the top 3 list of things that were special to me or most special to me. I am first generation Greek American. And ever since I was a baby, we've spent our summers in Greece. My mother's whole side of the family still lives there. So aunts, uncles, cousins, all over the map. And so to be there in a working capacity was just incredible. My parents both come from a little village about 90 minutes northwest of Athens. So I would spend the night in my family's village, which if anyone's ever seen Godfather 2, when Michael Corleone goes back to that little Italian village, that's basically where my family's from. So I'd wake up in a place like that, drive to Athens, work the Olympics for NBC, and then drive back to the village at night and hang out with my family. And to do that for 2-3 weeks was completely surreal and a moment that me and my family will never forget. It was pretty wild.
From the little village to big time LA.
To the bright lights.
Yes, to the bright lights. Now, having been in the bright lights, what does a 41-year-old Spero Dedes give? What advice do you give a 22-year-old Spero coming out of college?
Oh, well, first of all, to be 41 is frightening, man. I used to be the young guy. I would say really try to develop, when I was coming up, people said, try to be as versatile as you can be. And I think that was great advice because the industry was exploding. There were so many different positions out there to choose. What I tried to do was really figure out specifically what I was best at and where my passion was, because that for me was where I was going to devote most of my energy. And for me, that was play-by-play. Bob Aarons, who we spoke about earlier, oversaw our program. And not only did we have opportunities to call games, but we also had a call-in show every Saturday called One on One. And all of us students would kind of rotate our opportunity to be hosts. And I would always give my slot to my buddies, to my colleagues, just because I knew that sports talk was not my strength. It was never going to be something that I was going to excel at. So I really tried to devote all my energy into building my craft where I really felt like my future was, and that was play-by-play. The other thing I will say is I don't think there's any blueprint that we can all follow. I think each of our journeys is different. What I try to do is just treat everyone with respect, smile, never get too big for your britches, never forget what got us here. And that's our love and passion for this craft. Constantly work. I'm constantly listening and watching my games, making my checklist of areas that I think I need to improve. I just think it's a constant evolution and a journey that we're all on. And I tell you the other thing I tell young broadcasters now, when I was young coming up, I was always thinking of the next gig, where's my next step going to be? And there were times where I didn't kind of stop and smell the roses, as they say. And so I tell young broadcasters really, enjoy the journey. Yeah, that waiting for the phone to ring or for that email to come in with a job offer, it's certainly gives you anxiety and it's tough, but it's all part of the journey. And that, it makes that call when it finally does come in and that opportunity that much sweeter. So I think the first thing you have to do is really determine how much you love this and how much you're committed to really doing this for a living, because it's certainly not easy and it's cutthroat, as we said, and it's competitive. But once you commit, once you take that step, you have to be all in.
It's going all in. We're going all into the rapid fire right now to wrap up this episode of Zach on Sports interview with Spero Dedes. Now, quick rapid fire, quick 3 questions over here. Even though you do play-by-play broadcasting, as we previously discussed, let's switch roles here. We're putting you in the color commentator seat here. Who's your dream play-by-play announcer to work alongside for an NFL football game?
Oh, that's easy. Al Michaels, the king of kings.
Just like that, taking Chris Collinsworth's seat. What's the best March Madness game you've called so far?
Again, that's an easy one too. My very, very first March Madness game, 2010. It was Murray State against Vanderbilt in a 13-4 matchup, upset, buzzer beater in my very first game. And I'll never forget the moment. We all just go nuts. Guy hits the winning shot, and I slump back into my seat as I send it to commercial. This moment of euphoria and excitement. And I think, my God, we have 3 more games to call. My voice literally was already starting to go. So that was an early moment into pacing when you're doing that first day of the NCAA tournament.
Got to get those vocal cords back from Arthur.
Yes,
Got to hold the string up and everything like that. Now, last question. I warned you about this one earlier on before we started talking. You're an East Coast guy. You now live in the West Coast. Is it the Jersey Shore or the Cali beaches?
Oh, my God. These are easy. Cali beaches. Jersey Shore, no. I will say, my heart will always be at the Jersey Shore and Manalapan and Wildwood and some great, great times. But, man, I've become a West Coast guy. I have to say, a bunch of my Jersey guys are going to give me some flack for this. But let me rephrase. My heart is always at the Jersey Shore, but my mind is always here in Cali. It's a special place to live.
All right. Well, I'm glad this episode. No, I'm kidding. Spero, thank you so much for coming on the show. Greatly appreciate it. I had a fantastic time. I hope you did as well. To everyone else, we'll see you guys next time on Zach on Sports.
Thanks, Zach.